Hello, hello, darling ones. I am trying this for a third time. It's because the less haste, more speed. I do not have a lot of time today, and I'm trying to get this forecast up. And Mercury is about to station retrograde, and Venus is already in retrograde, and Mars is still in shadow. And we are going to look at this damn total lunar eclipse in Virgo, no matter what. However, true to Mercury retrograde, I have had dog barking issues for the last two times that I've tried to do this. So fingers crossed. I tried locking her in. She found a way out and she can hear people talking outside the gate. I hope they are not traveling through onto this recording. Anyhow, let's jump in. This is a total lunar eclipse in Virgo. Lunar eclipses only happen at full moons where we can see the moon. We can see the moon being eclipsed. And solar eclipses happen at the new moon points. So the last new moon was the Pisces new moon. It was not an eclipse, but it was the indicator of the beginning of eclipse season. So when we do eclipse seasons, they come in seasons, usually two in a year. And the lunation, which is a new or full moon, before the eclipses starts the season, and the lunation after the eclipses ends the season. And then you usually have two eclipses in the middle. So it's basically four lunations, two new moons, two full moons hold that cycle, but only one new moon and one full moon are actually eclipses. And we have been for the last while doing because eclipses come in pairs and they come in pairs of signs. And so we have been doing Aries Libra eclipses for the last, and they also happen in around 18 months to 2 year windows before they shift sign. So we've been doing Libra Aries, and at the moment we're in a shifting space. So we are shifting because the nodes move backwards. So the North node has been in Aries, it's shifting back into Pisces. It actually has shifted back into Pisces already. And the South node that was in Libra has shifted back into Virgo because the nodes are always opposite each other and they move backwards. And so this is how it works. A little more information for those of you who are sort of working on learning astrology a bit better. So the point is that we are now in that shifting season because the nodes have only just moved. They're still close enough to the previous signs that this particular eclipse season, we are having a Virgo eclipse. And then instead of having a Pisces eclipse, which is opposite Virgo, we are having an Aries eclipse. So it's a mixed modality, but a polarity, not modality. Okay, that is a Mercury retrograde thing where you say the wrong word. Okay, I'm going to open that chart for you. Hopefully you can see that now. And this is, let me just shrink it down. This is the eclipse that we are talking about. So in this eclipse, you can see that it is on the 14th of March, 2025. Depending where you are in the world, for me in South Africa, it's happening at pretty much 9 a.m. So we will not see totality. And when it is a total eclipse, wherever the sphere of totality happens is where you have the most prominent effect, but it doesn't matter if you can see an eclipse, if it's happening in the day for you or the night for you. The energy of it is intense, and a total eclipse is more intense than an annular eclipse, or there's various different types of eclipses that are not total, and this one is a total eclipse. Therefore, this is like the big deal. Last year, around this time, we had a total eclipse in Aries, although that would have been a solar eclipse, if I'm remembering it correctly. And this is a lunar eclipse. So here we are, and we are very much pulled between the two polarities of Pisces and Virgo, like I just said, because this new moon is happening almost at 24 degrees. It's 23 degrees and 56 arc minutes of Virgo. So that's where the sun will be. And a full moon is always sun opposite moon. So therefore, exactly opposite the moon is the sun at 23 and 56 arc minutes of Pisces. Now, the sun is conjunct Saturn at the time of this. So there is this, first of all, Pisces is a sign that is very emotional and sensitive and psychic and in tune, can very easily slip into victim, martyr, addict. What can I do to numb everything that I'm feeling and the overwhelm? That can be Pisces, but also so keen to make a difference in the world, so connected to the fact that we are all connected, that we are not, that living in a vacuum. Everything that you do impacts me. Everything that I think impacts you. We are all connected. We are all drops in an entire ocean. So that's Pisces. We're in Pisces season. The last new moon was Pisces new moon, which makes this the Pisces lunar cycle. And here we find ourselves 2 weeks later at the, listen to me, I can't, at the Virgo full moon, which is this big total eclipse. And Virgo is a sign that is it's ruled by Mercury, which is about to go retrograde. It's very detail driven. It's very organized and like mundane day-to-day tasks are really important. What healthy things we put in our bodies are really important. Are you eating correctly? Are you surrounding yourself with good people? Are you listening to podcasts or watching shows that are feeding health and wellness in you? Virgo has a lot to do with natural and alternative health. But it can be a bit pernickety, persnickety, pedantic, perfectionistic, and the inner critic is a really loud voice in Virgo, especially for those people who have loud inner critics. And I mean, I have a loud inner critic, but I have done a lot of work to recognize the voice of my inner critic and to learn how to mitigate her to a degree. If you haven't done that and you have this really unconscious inner critic that's loud and screaming, it's going to be an interesting one for you. And even if you have done that, I have no doubt that I am going to be quite triggered in this new moon because I know, full moon, excuse me, because I know where it falls in my chart. And that's also important to know. What house does it fall in your chart? That will help you to understand what area of life is undergoing this eclipse, this shedding in some ways. It's a south node eclipse. You can see here this little upside down symbol here versus the right way up one here. That's the north node and that's the south node. So because this full moon eclipse is happening on the south node is about shedding. Remember, we're in the year of the snake in Chinese astrology, so it's kind of like a year of shedding. This will be very, very helpful. Also, just one reminder quickly that I've set this chart up for where I am. So you are not looking at the fifth house for you specifically, unless you are. Some people it would be so. For me, it's happening in my second house. Where is it happening for you? That's what you've got to figure out. Where is it happening for you? And so don't worry about the houses that you see in this chart. Rather go and look at where is 24 degrees of Virgo in your chart, okay? But this is a very big opportunity to shed. So because we're talking about shedding things and letting things go, and we think about all those Virgo traits of being a little bit perfectionistic and pedantic, this is a very good time to shed the inner critic or to peel off layers of the inner critic and realize that your inner critic is there trying to protect you. That's what she or he does to the best of their ability. They try to protect you. The only problem is that Mercury is a mental sign. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is currently in Aries, about to go retrograde the day after this eclipse. So very, he's at that stillest point. So very reflective already, and very slow and still already for a fast-moving little planet that he is. It's going to be an opportunity for us to peel back some of the layers of understanding where that inner critic voice comes from within us. And why do I even have that? Because Venus is already retrograde, so it'll also tie into reflecting on our values. So let's say, for example, you grew up in a household that had very strong political beliefs. And so that was like always around you in the periphery in your childhood. And then you become someone with similar political beliefs or religious beliefs or values around family, values around gender or sexuality, values around that. You grew up with these value systems and belief systems, and that's what it was. And this is one of those opportunities where you might stop and go, but is that what I truly believe? Is that what I truly think is valuable? Do I really care if somebody has that sexual preference or that religion? If I get on with the person, we have great conversations, am I going to stop having a relationship with them entirely because they have a different religion to me or a different sexual preference to me or are a different race than I am? Does that matter to me? And at first, it might seem like it does, but as we go through the retrograde, you might start to realize I'm actually indoctrinated into something that I didn't even realize wasn't mine. So this can get super uncomfortable, and it's going to be a big process because Venus and Mercury are going to be working together with this retrograde, because they start their retrograde at the same point, which is 10, 9, 10 Aries, and then they move back into Pisces. And I've already been speaking about how the late Pisces, early Aries is a huge, huge, huge area of focus for this year. If you haven't already looked where that is in your chart, please go and look, because that area of your life is in for so much excavating that understanding that will help you to feel a little bit calmer. So for me, that is in the 8th house, and that's a hard house at the best of times. So me understanding the themes that are probably going to kick off, and when they do, to kind of just drop into the permission slip that this is happening for me, not to me. It's all happening as it should. It's orchestrated by these huge gravitational pulls of the planets in the sky. I'm trying to find my balance within the chaos of the change and get okay with not knowing how I will look, how it will look and feel on the other side. Okay, that's the surrendery part of this. And it's not supposed to be an easy process. It's also not a fast process, this energy that's happening there. But there are certain pieces of this big Aries Pisces piece that are faster. And what we're talking about now is actually that, because the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde are far quicker processes to work through in that space than the eclipse cycle in that space is going to be, and that Neptune and Saturn moving from Pisces to Aries is going to be slower. So this now, where we're finding ourselves, this is the faster part of this cycle. And just a reminder that by the end of this month, we are going to see Neptune shift sign for the first time. I actually wanted to pop into an ephemeris just to show you what the ephemeris looks like. So if you come into AstroSeek, yeah, you can see AstroSeek, and you go to Astro Tools, and you come here to the ephemeris table. It's going to bring you into an ephemeris. An ephemeris is basically an astrologer's best friend. It's going to tell you where all of the planets are on any given day. So here we are in March, and I just want to come down to where we're talking about the 14th by this new moon, full moon. Okay, this eclipse. It's over here. The beginning of the day, the moon was at 20 degrees by this chart. So it's not time specific to the eclipse at this point, but you get an idea, because she's the fastest moving, the moon, you get an idea where everyone is in a line rather than in the circle that we always look at with that chart. Sorry, I can hear mowing outside. I hope it's not terribly loud on this recording. You can also see here, so at the top, it's going to tell you the planets. So it's Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus. It goes in order that they are. So watching Neptune here, you can see we are going to go all the way to the end of the month, and there is Neptune popping into Aries. In the meantime, if you look here at Mercury, okay, so Mercury only steps into Aries at the beginning of the month on the 4th. Venus starts the month in Aries. Okay, she starts her retrograde before, and you can look here, we're going 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then, oh, we're going back, 8, 7. Do you see that? And here as well, 10, 9, 8, 7, going back. And if you follow those two columns down to the end of the month, that you'll see Venus will step back into Pisces before Mercury, but only days before. And by the end of the month, Mercury's practically caught up with Venus. You can then always go, well, what's happening then in April? Pop to April. And I'm just going to say at the very top of the April page just to show you. And then you can see both of them are now. And then at some point, Mercury is going to get ahead of Venus. Okay. And in the meantime, you can see that here Neptune just stays at the 0 degree point for a long time. We're not going to explore this too far because he's very, very slow moving, which brings me back to the reminder. Here's the chart for the eclipse. Brings me back to the reminder that the Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde processes over those degree points, late Pisces, early Aries, They are the faster part of this cycle. So whatever we're experiencing now, Venus very much around what do I value? How do I want to give and receive love? Where do I bring value to the world? That sort of thing. And the feminine, also the feminine with Venus. And then Mercury, my thinking, how do I want to change my patterning, my narrative, my inner critic, my internal dialogue? How do I want to work on those things? And so we're having this reflective quality coming from that Pisces end of a cycle into Aries beginning of a cycle, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. Aries is the first sign. And aside from the fact that the eclipse is shining on the opposite side of the chart, most everything is happening in this area right now. You can see this heavy congestion, Saturn, Sun, North Node, Neptune, Venus, Mercury, Chiron, all piled up in those two archetypes of Aries, Pisces. And so we're going from this whole journey of if we are all one, if we are all connected, if I am wise and well and healed and working with my wise, well-healed ancestors, how can I make the world a better place? And then we go into how can I, Aries, how can I make the world a better place? How can I be the most true, pure, authentic, honest, sovereign expression of myself so that I am bringing more of that into our collective? Because they seem so opposite in so many ways. Like, how can I focus on just being one drop when I am an entire ocean? But if we don't get really, really clear and filtered and discerning, which is a very big Virgo word, if we don't get very discerning about ourselves, who we are, where our traumas are, healing our own traumas, our triggers, being the best version of ourselves, a human version, because we're human. So you're not going to be perfect. Another keyword for Virgo. You're not going to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. And often it's in the stuffing it up, the accidents, the mistakes, the foot and mouth moments that we actually learn the most. So it's not about being, this is one of my favorite Virgo things, progress, not perfection. And so if during this crazy eclipse, you can try to, I want to say silence the inner critic, but that might be hard. Observe the inner critic, try to be in a witnessing consciousness, recognize what that inner critic is shouting at you, and then remember that saying progress, not perfection. Because even just noticing the voice of the inner critic, even recognizing certain narratives that just keep repeating for you, those are huge steps in your self-awareness, and that's progress. It's not perfection. There is no perfection. And what happens is sometimes we can get, especially if you have strong Virgo, we can get so fixated on doing it right that we start to procrastinate and we don't do anything at all. And that is a real shame, because Virgo Pisces is a beautiful axis for health and healing. So Virgo more about healing the body and the practicality, and Pisces healing the psyche and the mind and the heart. Both of them, in fact, both of them have a strong mental aptitude, but in slightly different ways. I would say maybe Virgo more mental, Pisces more emotional, Virgo more physical, Pisces more spiritual. But we are not one or two of those. We are all of those. So this is the gift, the permission slip of this eclipse is almost like this like sudden aha moment of what the heck? Why have I just continued to consume wheat when it bloats me and makes me feel awful? Why am I doing that? What if I didn't? What if I tried for 3 weeks to get off wheat and see how that helps? And what if in that time I replaced wheat with this? Let me try that. So it's the details of now my stomach is not cramping and bloated and I'm not feeling overwhelmed. Suddenly I can hear the intuitive voice, which is not as loud as my stomach has been whilst it's been in this state. So this is like an example of how you might see it overlapping. There's a million different examples, and each one will speak differently depending on your own chart. You can get a little bit more discerning. And the reason I say stomach is because Virgo has a strong predisposition for stomach, like that anxious stomach, that stressed stomach, how we digest things. It's got a lot to do with Virgo. So it's a good one to look into, but there's a many other different ways that also might manifest. So Saturn is very rules and regulations. He's really trying to hold a bit of a boundary for the sun at this time of this eclipse. He's also getting to the later degrees of the sign, and he's also recognizing that his time here is almost done. He spends 2.5 years in a sign. It's a long time. He doesn't love Pisces. We've talked about that many times because he's trying to be really structured. And here he is under the ocean building a coral castle. The tides and currents keep shifting. It keeps moving his foundations. It's kind of like he's had to learn himself to get a little bit more surrendered to the flow and to the process. And I mean, I've definitely felt that while Saturn's been in Pisces, that I mean, the forced surrender to the process, because even if you don't want to, there is no choice. Also, I mean, interesting for me, Saturn in Pisces is opposite my natal Saturn in Virgo. So for me, that has been a big lesson because it's my Saturn opposition. Where is Saturn in your chart? How is he speaking to Saturn in the sky now? Maybe it's not an area of huge conversation for you. Maybe it's not too bad. Maybe you have a Scorpio Saturn, and so it's been trying the Saturn in the sky, and you've actually felt really good about how your emotional intelligence has been developing and the depths to which you've been able to uncover stuff. You know, you might find that your discipline at therapy has been really good. So it does depend on where Saturn is in your chart. This is always the thing, always looking at these forecasts and applying it to your own chart. A reminder too that at this stage of this eclipse, we can see that we have a strong support from Uranus, who's also at the end of his process in Taurus and is going after 7 years. He's going to start his exit very soon, but he's at 24 degrees. So he's in a very tight sextile to the sun and a tight trine to the moon. So what this is really meaning is he's supporting, but Uranus is the guy that gives us these aha moments and insights, and suddenly they come through sudden lightning bolt like awarenesses. Now, because these are positive conversations, the trine and the sextile, maybe it's not going to be that the lightning bolt is you had a car crash because you saw something out the window and got such a shock and had such a change of shift you hit the tree. Maybe it's not going to be that. Maybe it's going to be just an insight through a conversation, or I get my best insights in the shower often. The water is flowing and suddenly I'm like psychic hits just start coming through. Or your dreams, because Pisces is a sign of dreams. So you might very well feel the dreams coming through. And then with this being double Earth, Taurus being Earth and Virgo being Earth, dreams come true, making things real. Okay, the idea has come, but now what good is an idea if I can't turn it into a product or turn it into a concept that I can use that's tangible? So maybe suddenly you realize why your kitchen hasn't been working for you, and you recognize that if I shift it around, then this is going to work better. Or if I just get this one appliance instead of having five on the counter, that's the answer. It can be as simple as things that make your day to day. Remember, Virgo is very much about the day to day. Things that make your day to day run better, or it can be the big thing. And you never really know. And sometimes little things turn into big things. So let's say you'd rearrange that kitchen, you have less appliances, but suddenly the appliance you have is very helpful for you to make your, like a NutriBullet. I'm just channeling these ideas. I'm sucking them out of the ethos, okay? Maybe you just suddenly now you're doing better breakfast for yourself because of how you rearranged your kitchen, which seemed like a small, silly thing, but has made your whole day better because you start your day better because your breakfast is better and you're feeling better in your body and your mind is clearer. And can you see where I'm going with this? A small thing can become a big thing. And sometimes it's a big thing from the get-go. And maybe it's very big initially, and then it sort of settles into just a day-to-day thing that has changed in your life. So you never know where these things are coming. And the astrology for me is kind of like a permission slip to get an idea of the themes that should be coming through, taking it into your own chart, the where in my chart should it be coming through. If it's triggering certain planets in your chart, then you're like, ooh, and this might be particularly impacted. If your Venus is getting very triggered, I might be extra with my Venus, for example. Then that's going to give you permission and a little bit of awareness, but also never think you know, because we do not know. We do not know. There are so many eventualities that could be. I think I'm going to pretty much stop here. Remember, Mars is still in his shadow period after his retrograde, and he's still in Cancer. He hasn't left yet, so he's still very much supporting here this Pisces stuff. They're trining, and he is sextiling. So you can see you've got the sextile trine here, and you've got the sextile trine here, all impacting this lunation. So he's very supportive also of Sun, Saturn, and also of the Moon situation going on. And he's just undergone this intense journey, this journey into the inner world for him. And he's coming out of this, and he's in a kind of, Mars is not naturally a nurturing, nourishing kind of guy. He's a go-getter. And he's in the nurturing sign of Cancer, and he's undergone some deep unpacking. And it's almost like the divine masculine has deeply looked at where the wounding is, where the nurturance needs to come into the masculine. And so while Venus is now in her deep journey, because she's in a masculine sign, so he's in a feminine sign, he's in a masculine sign. There's a lot this year of the balancing of the polarities of the divine masculine, sacred feminine. And I feel like the masculine particularly is getting a lot of focus now because the outer planets are moving into masculine signs. And remember, this isn't about gender. It's yin or yang, you could say it that way, but fire and air are yang energies, earth and water are yin energies, and all the outer planets are going to be moving into fire or air. So Mars is now just coming out of this journey. And if you've ever done any kind of deep meditation or like a plant medicine or something shamanic or undergone this huge transformation in your life, you will know that once all the dust is settled, you're not done yet. And that's kind of what the post shadow of a retrograde is. You're not done yet. It's integration time, it's solutions time, it's now I get to practice doing it differently with what I now know. It's that. And he's in that space, still in the sign of Cancer, really trying to support us in getting whatever is going to come through in terms of the eclipse in Virgo, but also in terms of Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and this whole Pisces Aries shift. I'm going to stop because I'm sure I don't even know how long this recording is now. I feel like it's going to get a little too long if I carry on. But honestly, there's so much more to say in this chart. We didn't even mention Pluto, but we are going to stop. This is me, a Gemini. I'm not good at stopping. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. That'll stop me. And I'm going to say thank you very much. The new moon after this full moon is in Aries. It is an eclipse as well. I will get to a forecast for that in the not too distant future. Thank you for your likes, shares, follows, subscribes, comments, for your support so that I can keep sharing this information. Have a beautiful eclipse and stay calm, carry on, breathe. Recognize that any shifts, any change, any challenge is happening for you and not to you. And thank you for your time.